Hey guys, welcome back to MotoringBox. I'm Sean McKellar and this is my 2001 AU Fairmont Ghia. If you're familiar with my YouTube channel, it's actually been about 5 months since you've seen anything to do with this car. The last time you would have seen it would have actually been when I drove it down to Sydney, a 2,000 kilometre journey there and back to attend the Mighty Car Mods Nationals. This AU is actually probably one of the most famous cars in the country, and thanks to Mighty Car Mods is now slightly more notable than it was before. And of course, you'll also remember this car from the mobile office video which I filmed back around November as well. And I do have a little update to do with the mobile office, so stick around for that. But I wanted to get the AU back in the garage here to show you a few little things I've done to it over the last couple of months. Let's take a look. Now, I bought this car about a year ago. Time really flies, and really the biggest thing about it which let it down visually, apart from the styling, if you don't like how they look, was actually the guards. Pretty much every single guard on this car had scrapes and damage, because I do believe it was driven for many years of its life by an elderly gentleman who scraped it up and down the side of his really narrow garage opening. Now, usually there are two different ways you can fix this sort of damage, and the first would be to go to the wreckers and try and source some replacement guards. But the issue with doing that is, even if you can find them in the correct paint color, chances are they're going to have damage as well. You're not going to get a perfect color match because every single vehicle has spent differing amounts of times in the sun. So you're going to have different levels of paint fade. So you're never really going to be happy with that option. And the second option is to try and fix the damage yourself, which would be to beat the guards out, put a bit of filler on there and repaint them. Or actually pay someone to do that for you, but it's going to cost you a shitload of money, probably $1,000 per guard, I would say. But in the case of my AU Fairmont, I actually found a third way, and that is these chrome wheel arch trims. These actually cost me around $200 on eBay, and I know what you're thinking, that's not cheap. But think about the alternatives. Repainting the front guards and also the rear quarter panels, all four corners of the car, would cost you thousands of dollars. Because the damage was isolated to the really outside edge of the wheel arch here on all four wheel arches, these trims actually cover 100% of the damage. Another really awesome thing about these wheel arch trims is you have two ways to install it. The less permanent way actually involves these little clips which hook into the wheel arch of your car and then pass through the trim, and then you sort of bend it off and they hold the trim in place. There's 3 of these little clips per wheel arch trim, and they really do hold it onto the car in a semi-permanent way. There's no way it's ever going to come off. So if you want to buy a set of these wheel arch trims and you don't want to fully commit to drilling holes in your guards, these are actually a really good solution to see if you actually like how they look on your car or not. When I first installed these trims, I actually used the clips because I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep them or not. And once they were on the car, that feeling didn't really go away. I still wasn't 100% convinced. But after a day or maybe 2 days, I really got used to it quite quickly. And when I look back to the old videos I filmed of this car back when it didn't actually have these installed, it really looks like something's missing. So once I knew that I really wanted to keep them on there, I went back and removed these clips, drilled some holes and actually screwed these on permanently. They are a really good addition to the car, I think, and if you've got a car which is similar to this, have a look on eBay or Amazon or wherever you buy your stuff online, and see if you can actually find a set of fender covers like this. If you've got some damage to hide or you just want to add a bit more chrome to your car, it's a really good option. Apart from imperfections in your paint and panels, the next thing I find really dates the appearance of a car, any car, would have to be the lights. That is the headlights, tail lights, and also the side markings as well. Luckily with my AU Fairmont, the lights are generally in really good condition. The headlights are free of damage and have super clear lenses, and likewise the rear lights look really good as well. But the side indicators on my car were a different story. The lenses were really quite dull, and also the little rubber gasket that sits behind them was split, and the other side actually had half of it missing. It sort of meant that the indicators were sort of rattling around in their little slot, and they just look really quite old. You know, they really looked every bit of 20 years old. Luckily on eBay you can find a whole slew of replacement lights. You can stick with the amber lenses if you want, or you can go for clear or crystallized side indicators like this one which I've got here. They are really easy to change. All you need to do is get a little trim removal tool, wedge it in underneath and flick them out. The only thing to remember if you're going for a clear lens from an amber lens is to make sure you replace the bulb as well. The bulbs in these amber ones are actually clear bulbs, but when you go for a clear indicator you need to go for an amber bulb, otherwise your indicators are going to be white instead of orange. So keep that in mind. And the last thing on this car that I actually wanted to fix was the front bumper bar, because when I bought it, the front bar that came with it actually had quite a bit of damage on it. Overall, it looked okay, but it's obviously been in a car park accident in the past, and this whole area has been punched in and then popped out again. So the paint is all crazed and cracking, and someone's had a go at obviously spray painting over it to try and fix it, but they've done a really shit job. And likewise, down the bottom here, there's a crack that runs all the way through this lower portion. It was probably done in the same accident, and again, someone's tried to put a bit of Bondo on there and spray over it, but the crack has just come back through and it looked really shit. You could have tried to fix this bumper, but I think it was more trouble than it was worth, so I actually went to the wreckers and found another bumper which was the same color. Still had a little bit of damage, but no cracks that actually went all the way through the plastic, so I just gave it a rough sand. I didn't really spend much time on it. Went down to Super Cheap Auto, got some spray paint cans in the correct color, gave it a spray, put a layer of clear over the top, and Bob's your uncle. It's not a fantastic job, but it really does look a lot better than this one anyway, and when you factor in the general condition of this car, it actually matched up pretty perfectly. I didn't want a front bar that looked immaculate and then the rest of the car didn't really match it, so overall I was really happy with how it turned out. Fortunately, I've got this old front bar here, so I don't really know what I'm going to do with that. Maybe I can flog it off to someone who actually wants it for their car, we'll see. And really, that's you up to date with my AU Fairmont. I wouldn't call it an immaculate car because it is far from it, but when you compare it to the condition of other AU Falcons you usually see out and about, it is generally in really good condition compared to those, so I am pretty happy with how it's looking. It does live out in the sun most of the time, and there is a bit of paint fade happening on the boot, so I have to think about what I'm going to do about that. But we'll see. Generally, I'm really happy with how it looks, and it's still driving really good as well. On the way down to Sydney, it didn't miss a beat, and I actually entered it into a Motorcana event at the Mighty Car Mods Nationals, where I did 2 laps of the circuit. I really wrung the neck off this thing, and it performed flawlessly. In fact, the only thing that happened to the car following that event was Barry the Fly went from the left of the instrument cluster to the right. So that just goes to show how much force I was putting through the car through the corners. So it is a really good car. I was amazed with how it performed on the trip. So that's all there is new here on the outside, but there is one more thing on the inside. So let's jump in and take a look. So here we are back in the AU Fairmont, and if you haven't seen the video that I made about this car a couple of months ago, I wholeheartedly recommend you go and check it out. I'll leave a link in the video description below. And likewise, if you haven't seen the video I've made about this incredibly rare item, which is the horizontal office work table from Ford's mobile office pack, do go and check that out because this table is incredibly rare. There's not another video on YouTube about it, and there really isn't any information on the internet either. So I'll install that table in its place in the center console, goes into the cup holder and onto the shifter. That is fantastic. But the really exciting thing is that the table is not the only thing in the mobile office pack. There is one more important item which I didn't have when I filmed that video, but I do now, and that is the mobile phone presenter. So it actually installs into the center console bin, and you can see it sitting here. So you open the bin and it simply folds out on a hinge and sits in place like that. So when it's in place, you can actually shut the center console bin and there you go. So back in the day, if you had a Nokia phone or any other brick phone from back in the time, it would have come with a car mounting kit. So it was actually a mount which you had to screw to your car somehow and then the phone clipped into it. So you can actually see on this phone presenter there's like a template of screw hole guides depending on what kit you have. Seeing as we're in 2020, I'm not going to screw anything to this because I want to leave it original as possible. So the really cool thing about the mobile phone presenter is it's really just hollow plastic. And it's like a clamshell design, so you can actually remove this whole back panel here by taking out a single screw. So I did that and actually had a really cool idea, which was to get a couple of high power magnets and double-sided tape them to the underside of this front surface here. Meaning I can actually get my current mobile phone, which has a magnetic mount attached already to the back of the case. You know, those ones that usually go on the dashboard. So I can actually get this and it'll actually stick to the mobile phone presenter perfectly. The presenter is also a really good size, you know, as if it was designed for this phone all the way along. And I can actually move the holder around. It's not until it goes upside down that the phone actually falls off. But if you leave it in place, the phone is actually stuck on there pretty well. So it's not going to come off when you're driving. So I think it's a really cool addition to the car. You know, it's designed perfectly so that it can still fold out when the horizontal work table's in place. So I'm really happy to sort of complete the set of the Ford Mobile Office. There is one more thing technically that I need, which was a wiring harness that included an additional cigarette lighter port. I think it went under the dashboard somewhere, but I don't really care about that because I'm not going to power anything from the cigarette lighter plug anyway. So I'm really happy to have the table and also the phone presenter. If you own an AU Falcon and you come across one of these mobile phone presenters, they're still pretty common. You can actually install it into your car really easily. It sort of slots into the existing center console here. There are some coin holders in the front and it's actually molded to sort of fit down into those coin holders. So once it's in place, you just have to drill, I think it's 3 holes, and then put in some screws to attach it in place. I actually put some automotive grade double-sided tape in there as well to just hold it in firmly, and it worked perfectly. It is snug as a bug in a rug in there, and it simply folds away out of view when you don't need it. So I'm really happy to have completed the set of my mobile office. So that's it guys, just a quick little update on my AU Fairmont. I don't really have any concrete plans on what I'm going to do with this car in the near future, but I am planning to hang on to it for a little while, so let's see what happens. If you've got any ideas, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.